Hey guys, this is Jonathan. This bonus episode is not a trivia episode. I want to give you that warning up front. I'm going to share some thoughts and opinions about a topic that's sensitive. And so if you're only here for the trivia and don't really care about my opinions on anything, then that's totally okay and fair. I would advise you to skip this episode and to move on to the next great trivia episode, which should be coming out on our normal Monday schedule. So for those of you who were not turned off by that intro and are curious about what I'm going to talk about, let me say first that the reason that I'm taking the time to record this is that I just feel like it's the right thing to do. It's one of those Spider-Man things, where with great power comes great responsibility. The fact of the matter is that Trivial Warfare has given me a larger voice than a lot of people. I have, obviously, you guys who are one of the best audiences in the world are listening to me week in and week out, and so what I say might reach more people than what somebody else says. So I feel like when something grabs me, I think that it's something that I would like for people to pay attention to, then it's almost a duty for me to share it. So that's why I'm doing this. The topic of today's show is suicide. I had an article on my Facebook wall today posted by a friend, and I'm going to read to you a good portion of that article. It's not too long, but I want to give you a setup for the conversation. So this is what grabbed me. It's from the Fox 25 WFXT website, oddly enough, from fox25boston.com. Go figure. Okay, here we go. Quote, "The family of a West Virginia third grader who hanged himself Saturday at his home said his death came after months of bullying by other children. Jackson Grubb, 9, of Sophia, died September 10th, the date designated as World Suicide Prevention Day. NBC affiliate WVVA reported that the boy's family and friends are citing schoolyard bullies as the cause of his death. Betsy Baber, Jackson's grandmother and guardian, told the news station that the introverted boy used to fight back against the bullies with humor or, occasionally, physical confrontation, but that in recent weeks he'd become more withdrawn than usual. Quote, "I was spending time with him, trying to get it out of him," Baber told WVVA. Quote, "But Jack's a type that holds things in, and I couldn't get it out of him." End quote. Jackson's sister went into his bedroom on Saturday carrying a frog that she'd found outside, hoping the amphibian would cheer him up, the news station said. Instead, she found her brother's body. I'm going to skip down to the bottom here. The last paragraph points out the World Health Organization estimates more than 800,000 people die each year by their own hands. In the United States, more than 1 million people attempt suicide annually. The American Association of Suicidology has identified it as the 10th leading cause of death in the country. And then if you or someone you know needs help, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. Okay, so that's the setup. That's the article that grabbed me. And obviously, it's a third grader. It's a suicide by hanging, and it grips me. The reason that I resonate with it is that once upon a time, I considered suicide more than once. And I feel strongly about the topic because I feel strongly about life. I can remember third grade. In fact, I remember third grade vividly. I remember third grade as the year of school when I comprehended that other kids were picking on me. Even my quote-unquote friends who would come over and hang out at my house after school were picking on me, and I was the butt of the jokes. I bring up third grade because the fact that our world now has shifted such that a young person at that age even comprehends what suicide is devastating to me. It truly makes me sad. I know that I have to imagine that I must have been a little bit sheltered, or maybe I just don't remember it correctly, but I certainly didn't comprehend anything about suicide at all when I was in the third grade. And to hear that a third grader made that decision meant that they felt like it was the only way out. The trick of suicide, and I was very familiar with this trick. The trick of suicide is the idea that a situation is hopeless, that it will not change, and that it is so bad that it would be better to end your life now than to persist living in this intolerable situation that feels like it will never get better. That's the trick of suicide right there. That's the whole, when it comes right down to it, it's the idea that this isn't going to get better. This is the way it's going to be, and I would rather not be here to go through that. It's better just to end it early. That's the same way I felt when I was a teenager and I thought of it. It's the same way I felt after I came back from college and lived with my father and stepmother for a time after I failed out of college with my first attempt. That was 1995. No, it was 1997. I remember that feeling. And the reason that I feel compelled to speak and talk about it is that it is so false. And I wish that we had more people who have gone through those emotions that were speaking about it. I wish that we had more people who understand how those people feel when they're struggling and they're suffering and they feel like nobody's gone through it before and they feel like it's not going to get better. It helps when you know that somebody else has felt the same way and it got better. And so that's why I'm talking about it, because I've felt the same way. And you know what? It does get better. I'm 39 years old right now. I'll be 40 this year. And I can tell you that my life has never been better. Let that sink in, because 15-year-old me didn't know that. 19-year-old me didn't know that. Didn't conceive it. Didn't believe it could be possible. 19-year-old me considered myself to be an abject failure. I wasn't popular. In fact, at that point, I had just endured 4 years of high school, which were terrible, constant bullying, and I didn't make it. I made it worse for myself because I was emotionally immature and didn't know how to handle it well. So I made my own life harder and gave bullies exactly what they wanted. And so, yeah, high school was bad. I don't have fond memories of school. I don't have fond memories of my childhood, except for family. I do have fond memories of family, of things that I did with my mother and father and brothers, even after my parents split, even after my brother left, and we all lived in different places. I do have fond memories because home was a safe place. But outside of home, I was always an outsider. I was always the person who was most likely to be picked on. And God help me, when I ran across somebody who was more pathetic than I was, then I became the bully. And I would pick on them because it was nice to not to be the person getting picked on for once. Yeah, I'm ashamed of that. I think that happens to a lot of people. And so when I was 19 and I was considering suicide seriously, it was because I didn't see it getting better. I didn't see life changing. I got out of high school, I went through a little bit of college, but left, and I'm not good at keeping touch with people, so the friends that I had made from hanging out together because we were in the same space, that all disappeared quickly. And so I found myself with no more friends, with no friends at all. And I found myself having failed. And I found myself in a place where I thought I was ugly, and in a place where I knew I was fat, and in a place where I knew that girls weren't interested in me, and I didn't know how to not be fat. I didn't think it was possible. And honestly, I'm fat again now, but God help me, I've had wonderful experiences now as an adult where I understand how things work and how life is, right? But as a kid, you don't have that perspective. As a 19-year-old, I said to myself, I'm going to be fat forever, and no girl's ever going to like me. And now I'm a failure in my education, so I'm not as smart as I thought I was, and I'm not as smart as I want other people to think I am, and now I'm ashamed. So I'm ashamed, I'm ugly, I'm lonely, and how is this ever going to change? I don't have any experience. The best job I can get is working at Winn-Dixie, or then eventually as a customer service advocate at a company. But how's that going to change anything? I wasn't making any good money, so I was poor, broke, lonely, ugly, fat. You know what I mean? And I didn't see it changing. I didn't see an out. I didn't see how that could possibly change. And so it resonates with me when I see that people have committed suicide, because I know how they felt. They felt like it wasn't going to change. This poor kid has no life experience. He was 9 years old. 9. There's no life experience. There's nothing there that gives him any sense for whether or not this is normal or not normal. That gives him any sense of how life can change. But he hadn't even hit puberty yet. He might have turned out to be the best looking kid in his school, or a talented musician, or a brainiac, or a great artist, any number of things. But he didn't even experience that. He never had a chance. And so, what do I want from you guys? Why am I sharing all of this with you? It's for a couple of reasons. First, some of you may feel that way. Some of you might feel that way right now. You're lonely. You're poor. You feel like you're ugly. You think something's not going to change. You're not happy with your circumstances. You don't know what to do about it, but you feel like there's no way out. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care how old you are, how fat you are, how ugly you think you are, or how ugly people tell you you are. I don't care about any of the negatives that the world tries to push down on you. I'm telling you right now, from experience, that things can change. Do you understand that? Things can change. I mentioned earlier, I'm as happy now as I've ever been. It really is true, guys. Even just with this show and the connections and friendships that I've developed with some of our awesome audience members, and the thrill that I have with the fact that we're continuing to grow and that people are supporting it and that it resonates with people. It's this amazing, it's like walking on clouds. It's incredible. It's like finding a place where you belong, where you fit in, where the other people there not only like you, but they appreciate you for who you are. Do you think I felt like that when I was 19? Do you think I ever thought I would experience that? No. Not even close. Shoot, I didn't think I was going to experience that feeling when I was 30 and married. Because that's not the way that made me feel. You don't have to be a kid for this to resonate. You could be 40 years old like I am and just gone through a divorce. You could be any number of things. But the point I want you to know, if you're a listener of this show, it can change. It's not always easy. It's typically not fast. But the decisions you make of how you spend your time and spend your life are going to change your life. If you decide that you want to get an education and want to go back to school, then you go back to school. And over time, things will change. If you don't want to be fat, you're tired of being fat, you start working out, you start eating. Whatever the choices you make are, if you do them long enough and consistently enough, your life will change. And let me tell you something. I went through a 250-pound weight loss. The world around you changes when you change. So that world that you don't feel like is worth living in, after you've gone through your change, after you've accomplished what it is that you set your mind to accomplish, the world treats you differently. The world looks at you differently, and the world looks different to you. I'm telling you that right now. The same people that you feel condemned by are going to be impressed by you and want to be part of what you're doing. You can take that to the bank. So that's part one, man. Part one is for you guys who are feeling it right now. I'm telling you it can change. It's about making decisions, taking actions, being consistent with your actions. You can do it. Do not give up. Don't do it. The other point that I want to make, guys, if you're a parent, please talk to your kids. This kid was 9 years old. He should be thinking about riding bikes and playing video games and what he's going to be when he grows up and starting to read cool books for the first time in his life and just being exposed to all kinds of awesome stuff, right? That's what a 9-year-old experience should be like. And unfortunately, the way the world is now, it's different even from when I was a kid. Apparently, third graders have a lot more self-awareness and things are more real at an earlier age now. Let's accept that. That's reality now. Let's not ignore that. Let's not debate that. Let's not look over it. It is what it is. So I can tell you right now that a third grader's mind is not developed enough to handle the kind of negativity that we're throwing at it. A personal aside for me, and this is probably going to turn some of you guys off, I'm sorry, but I believe it. Don't let your kids watch bad movies. That stuff's going to mess them up. Some of these creepy, scary movies. I've had scary movies that I saw when I was 10 years old, 9 years old. They've stayed with me for 30 years. Your kids don't need to see that. There's so much nasty stuff out there that our kids are getting exposed to at earlier and earlier ages. It's one thing if you're a teenager, man, but these second graders, third graders, they are not ready for this. And we're exposing them to stuff like it's nothing. Well, it is something. And it sticks. So let me encourage you, and I'm sorry if that feels judgmental. I know. I get it. But I believe it. I believe that stuff messes our kids up. But talk to them. Make sure you know what's going on, man. Take bullying seriously. You're their protector. I can't understand it. Obviously, I can't comprehend it. I can't comprehend it from that poor kid's perspective. I can only imagine what the poor parents are going through. It's devastating to know that that was happening and to know that you'll never get a chance to change things or make them right or do things differently. I don't care how hard the conversation is, guys. Talk to your kids. Make sure they know how much you love them. Tell them all the freaking time. Tell them until they're tired of hearing it. And make sure they know that things in life change. Make sure they understand they're not stuck. Make sure they know you're on their side. And when things happen, be on their side. Work with them. 1 million, what was the number? 1 million? More than 1 million people attempt suicide annually? 1 million? And some of them are kids. Most of them are young people. Guys, we can do better. Make sure that you talk to them. Make sure they know that what they're experiencing won't last forever. Even if it seems like it's going to last for a long time, you have no way to get them out of whatever it is. Make sure they know that life is long and the world changes dramatically. Because if they understand that, if you give them hope, hope can see you through a lot of stuff. All right. I've talked longer than I meant to, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. But guys, please, get help if you need it. Seriously, get help if you need it. And talk to your kids. Life changes. Make sure they know it. Make sure you know it. All right, guys, I'm going to head out. Love you guys. Be safe. This is Jonathan. Bye.